let's see, the machine torch to replace this guy because this wand is so long that I feel like when it moves around that this starts happening and it's affecting the cut. So I went ahead and just ordered this. They sell it on Langmuir's website. So I'm gonna change that out. Alright, so this rail right here, I think it's for like a track torch, so it's like a kind of like a train car, and you can set it to go a certain speed, and then you can actually adjust the height with this to go up and down. But I think I'm going to remove this rail because it is in the way. Something else that I noticed whenever I was just kind of tightening these down is that the threads don't go through the whole back side of this, and you actually have to tighten it past that. So you almost have to damage the part after you start threading it in to a certain point, and it could actually damage the bolts. So I might just take this off and see if I can run these all the way through. So here I'm going to try showing you. So let's see. So like right there isn't threaded, the thread stopped. So you actually have to force the bolt through these points because it doesn't even get tight enough to actually clamp on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just crank these all the way through so that I guess they kind of make threads on the back side here. And hopefully that works. Me or not, but I think it's kind of silly that they did this just to even get that to clamp decently, that the bolts go through the back, so literally like the back half of this wasn't even threaded. So like they either need to like give way shorter bolts, or the bolts are for like some crazy huge machine torch. I don't know what else is out there, but that's a crazy amount of throw. They did give me like one other short bolt, but they only gave me one of these. So I really don't know what it's for. That's really all that comes in the box. Let's see. believe replaces this thumb screw because you can't get the thumb screw on there anymore. The short bolt replaces the thumb screw here to replace this. I mean, for $70 something, I think that's a little crazy that, I mean, I almost maxed out those bolts and had to like over thread it. But that's just my opinion. Alright, so now that I got that done, and it looks kind of alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I have a new cut, which is like a, if you look at it, any of the like metal cutting websites and they do the last names and stuff, it's actually just like that. So I'm going to cut something that is quite similar to that. I'm going to turn on the plasma cutter. We have power. This is again 16 gauge. I'm running at 40 amps, and I think it's around, I think it's 55 inches per minute. So I'm going to go ahead and try to line this up where I want it. All right. So, we're about to fire it up. I guess I'm gonna leave the torch height controller on and see if I still have the problem with the compressor kicking on and changing my voltage. I do think that maybe because that other metal was so thin that the voltage wasn't reading very good. So with the 16 gauge, we are going to ride with the torch height control on. And hopefully she does good. Alright, here we go. I'm scared. Never mind. I'm doing a dry run. We're doing a dry run. Okay, so you guys might not be able to tell, but usually you do all the inside cuts and then you try to go in and then you do the outside cut last. I'm using Fusion 360 as my post processor as well right now, and for whatever reason it does mostly everything and then it does the outside and then it goes back and then does like 2, I think, of the inside, and that's not ideal. I'm gonna run it anyways, but I plan on trying to use sheet cam in the future, but right now I'm just using all the post processes from Fusion 360. So here we go, we're gonna actually run it this time. stopped. I got a warning over here. I'll put it on. So here it is. So plasma cutting arc voltage was lost during cutting loop. So I'm gonna go ahead and retry it. The compressor did kick on at that time whenever I had the issue. So I'm guessing it still has that issue. The compressor kicked off now. It also could be a ground issue. So I'm gonna move the ground as well. Retry cut. Load program. And start. Huh. So did the same thing just again after one cut. Not quite sure why. Unless that's a bad ground too, I don't know. Let's try. Okay, so let's do retry cut. We're gonna load the program again without the cut. So I don't know if I should just turn off the torch height controller and see if it'll run. Alright, so I turned off the torch height control and now I'm just gonna let it run, I believe, because that's kind of annoying. Alright, here we go. That's not good. That's not good. Oh, that's not good. Why is it not arcing? I don't think I've had this problem before. Not good. Because at least with the torch height controller on, if it noticed that it didn't arc, it would stop the program, but this just kept kind of going. And I really don't know how to get it to keep going. And I really don't know why it's not continuing. Everything's plugged in very well. Oh man, all right. So it said that it worked on the M, but I can't like go back. Damn, I really don't know what to do at this point. Let's see, the M. Oh. Okay, so I found where I can run it from a line, but that is where the start is for this M. That's why. Oh, this is unfortunate. Alright, I'm going to turn on the torch height controller, and I'm going to hit loop. Start at loop. Load program. Alright, so the torch height controller's on, and it's going to start at this M. Now I'm really hoping that it continues. Now I'm not arcing again. What is it doing this? Alright, try again. Retry cut. Okay, So we're gonna hit retry again. I'm going to turn off the plasma cutter. I turned it back on. I also changed a setting on here that I didn't know I had. I'm reading 100 PSI, so I have compressed air. And here we go again. Alright, so I'm having this plasma cutting voltage was lost again. This keeps popping up on me. But if I turn off the torch light controller and it loses arc, then it just keeps going, and then I have to find it in the G code. But luckily, if you go through the G code, which is right here, you can actually scroll and kind of see where it's at. So every time I do this, it loads everything without what it's cut so far. So it's cut this much. There's all this stuff that was in here that's cut, and this hasn't cut yet. But so if you were to like go to these points, it would show you different spots on here where it's at. And luckily, whenever I did turn off the torch light controller and it was moving by itself, that I eventually found where it was going. But it should be able to restart. The compressor kicked off again, so hopefully with it kicked off now, it'll run for a little bit longer. I don't know. So we're just gonna go ahead and retry this cut. And I don't know why it's doing this. It has a good ground. The plasma cutter looks fine to me. It's got compressed air. For some reason it really just does not want to arc. Let me clean a spot up real quick. This will be a little loud, but I'm going to clean this up a little bit. Alright. Now let's try the ground on here. issues that I was having. This is kind of the reason why I'm actually making these videos. Is everyone makes it seem like it's super easy to like just throw this thing together and make stuff or make parts, and I know it's not true. It's just like, I mean, if you ever watched about 3D printers and people making their stuff with 3D printers, and then like it's awesome every time, and it's not. So I know I would have problems coming into this, and just weird, funky things. And this is one of them. I'm not sure why. Sometimes it doesn't want to start the arc initially, but I still made it through the whole program. It didn't mess up the whole thing. All right, let's look at it. But there it is. I guess I'm grateful that I could actually get it completely cut. There's a couple spots. So like the lead in was right there. I don't know if this will focus good enough, but you can see that it actually damaged the top of the steel there, where the lead in is, and it did it over here too. So it's like it wasn't perfect. You can actually see where that lip and this lip aren't even on the same like plane. So that's kind of disappointing that that's not like straight across, but that's where I put a lead in. So maybe I need to put a lead in like on the round side. And then another thing is, so like this is like a little bit more elegant of a curve, and this is kind of not so good. It kind of cuts in and then kind of makes this weird straight loop. Maybe it's the post processor, I'm not quite sure. There's a couple spots, like I think that's where a lead in was, and you can actually see a little bump there. But I mean, you can probably clean it up and kind of hide some of this stuff. But that right there, yeah, is a little disappointing to me. But overall, it looks pretty good. If you paint it, maybe stand back and you might not really notice. But if you're trying to start a small business and that's the kind of quality you get, it might not be ideal. It makes it a little bit harder to do. So we got, let's try and get a better camera angle. So there's some heavy dross in a couple spots, and I've noticed this with my other cuts. Like some of the curves will actually produce a lot more dross than some of the straight edges. Like that doesn't have very much dross on it, but these curved spots have a lot of dross. And the best way for me to clean it up was to use like a chisel and actually just chip it off, because if you grind it, so what happens is it grinds it, but then the small amount that's left will actually fold into the inner side of the cut, and you can actually see it from the other side, and it actually makes it not look great. But that was a really long cut. I mean, it was a pretty decent amount of cutting edges there. So hopefully I can get it dialed in and get it cleaned up. The whole idea is to minimize as much cleaning so you don't have to do a whole lot of work. I mean, it's a plasma CNC. You don't want to do work. Like, that's the whole point of a plasma CNC table, is to do most of the work. But there's still work to be done. You still got to do some cleanup work. So yeah, I'll come back to you guys with it cleaned up. I might have it painted just so it won't corrode and have rust on it. I was also hoping that the machine torch would have helped out. It is a lot sturdier, but like I said, like when they come back to the same plane, it's like they're off. So I'm not really sure why. If the table's not like perfectly square, or what possibly is causing that. I do have an idea of getting a different setup for the torch. There's a couple different nozzles you can get to do fine, slower cuts, because this is, I'm guessing, is for like fast cuts, and I'm scared to turn the table up and lose the quality of the locations of points. So my biggest thing is you want to keep it slow so the table can be accurate, but if you go too slow, then your plasma cutter is creating all this dross and whatnot because it's just blowing stuff everywhere. So that was a lesson learned. All right, so it's been a couple days. I got the sign cleaned up. Here it is. Sorry, the light's kind of glaring. So it's cleaned up and it's painted somewhat. It's not quite done finished. I'm gonna put a couple more coats on it. But it turned out pretty good. The only thing that I wasn't a big fan of is that was a lead-in, like a start point, and you can see where it's clearly not on the same plane coming across. It doesn't come back to the same plane. And you can see kind of like where the arc starts are. So I'm gonna try to be more clever on where I put the arc starts and hopefully try to hide them. And another thing is, ever since I got the table, I haven't changed any of the consumables, and I have done some things where I've messed up, so I might have damaged the consumables. So I have new consumables. I've hung the plasma cutter up just to keep it off the floor from getting wet and whatnot. I've cut a couple other things, just trying. They're over here. So I painted this one. This is the logo. It has similar issues, but this one came out really good. This mountain silhouette, it looks pretty good. Just being hung from painting. I got another sign drawn up. One of my friends wants this as a gift. Bush light. So I'm gonna attempt to make this today. So I have new consumables, and I've tried to place the lead-ins on corners, not in the middle of straight lines. So I'm gonna attempt to cut this sign. Hopefully won't run into as many issues as we did with that sign. With all the stop and starts, I'm not really sure what was causing it. But we'll give it a go. Alright, so I did turn this down to 36 amps just to try to eliminate dross because I was having an issue with dross with going so slow. I am going to try to get a hold of, they have slow fine cut consumables because I'm sure this is all set up for fast cut stuff, and I'm getting a good amount of dross that I'm going to have to clean up. So you have to get a different swirl ring and a nozzle. And I think that will help me do slower cuts just to try to keep it more accurate. Moving the table slow. So this is my fault. It's still arced and tried to pierce through everything, but I did fail to hook up the ground.
So there it is. I'm actually quite pleased with it. I think there is still a good amount of dross. It's not as much as there was last time, for sure. But the lead-in spots are definitely a lot better, because that was the lead-in. There was the lead-in right there, for sure. That was a lead-in. And I think it came out a lot better. The only thing that I didn't like as soon as I saw it, that hole right there was supposed to be a perfect circle, and for whatever reason there's a little bit there that's not quite perfect. But I could put we'll just run a drill through that and clean it up. But that looks pretty good. So I'll clean this up, maybe get some paint on it, and we'll try another one. I do have another sign already drawn up that I need to cut, possibly for the same customer. Hell yeah, so it looks good.